Hey, this is Seth with In Demand Career. I show people how to get jobs in digital marketing with no previous experience or education. And that includes my very special guest today, Lawrence, who went to film school like I did and was working in the industry, but wanted a more lucrative, flexible, and easier career. And he took my course and got a job doing digital marketing and is now making $50,000 a year remote. And I'm very excited to share his story with you. Thank you for being here, Lawrence.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome, man. So why don't you tell people a little bit about your current job?
Yeah. I'm a programmatic performance manager with Pure Cars. It's a national company marketing agency that our clients are mainly car dealerships, and I work on the performance side, meaning I monitor and construct display campaigns, YouTube ads, etc. And I just monitor each one throughout the month, pretty much.
And that's awesome, man. And do you like the work?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. It's a lot less thinking. It's just kind of autonomous. I can go throughout my day just checking off boxes, and you know, I like it.
What do you mean it's a lot less thinking? I mean, this is an intellectual pursuit. It's not like laying bricks. So what do you mean by that?
Um, this is true. I find that I overthink a lot, which is one of my curses. And I may have mentioned this to you before, but the whole perfectionism equals poverty thing. However, early on, as I've been part of this agency, I found that overthinking and double checking everything has made it so I feel a lot more confident in what I do now. So when I say autonomous, meaning that I've done enough of the work that I don't have to think as much anymore. So
Oh,
I'm pretty,
okay. So
yeah.
it's more intuitive. That's great. I will say that, guys, it's one of the great things about this field. If you're an overthinker, it's that you definitely use your analytical part of your brain. But once you get comfortable with things like this, the same thing happened to me. You get into kind of a groove. I think that's what you're talking about. Like things are flowing, and remember, marketing isn't about guaranteeing results. It's about maximizing performance, which is what you're doing. And you mentioned you're doing display, and I know, the people watching may not know what that is, but, tell people a little bit about, the job you applied for and the job you ended up getting.
Yeah. My background is in search and SEO. And I did apply for a paid search position with the same company. It came down to, I went through a number of interviews. It came down to me and another person. That department ended up selecting the other person. However, the HR person, the person I talked to, the recruiter, he liked me. He just offered me another position in another department that they had growing, which was their programmatic department. And I had never done it or ever considered it. But if someone offers you a job, I said, sure. And then that night I built out a display campaign through my own personal Google Ads account just to test it, just to see how it worked. Just so I'd have something to talk about, and yeah, I liked it. So
that's awesome, man. And it's you're describing is that so my course, and most people you've seen on this channel have gotten search. This is Google's $1 billion baby. This is where like Google search is like the biggest thing, but they have this other network called the display network, which is all those ads you see when you're looking at news sites and CNN and whatever. There's billions of dollars in there too. It's just not their main thing. And what's amazing is that, you said you applied, you had all these skills in this one area, but they liked you. And now they're like, okay, well, we'll just train you in this other area. You had literally zero experience. And now they hired you, and they paid you $50,000 to learn this new skill set, correct?
Pretty much. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I was able to demonstrate enough of the knowledge of search that they said they, thought I would be comfortable doing what they needed me to do. So
it's awesome, guys. This is again another example of how these people are desperate for people that have the knowledge. So that you have to ask yourself, Why wouldn't they have just turned around and said, oh, I'm sorry, you don't have the skills for this. Sorry, goodbye. Let's go find someone who's qualified with display experience. No, they saw he had the knowledge. They saw he had the ability. And they're like, we can train this guy. Let's get him on board, pay him to learn this. So that's awesome. People, and your job is remote, correct?
Yeah, fully remote.
And how do you, well, actually, we'll get into this in a second because people always want to know how you got here. And I'd love to know, because you have this film background, I'd love to know more about, your previous employment and then, of course, how you found the course and you got this job. So what's your background in film production? What were you actually doing in film production? Were you on the crew? What was your position?
Yeah, so position is a set electric. So I worked on the lighting team. I worked with the lighting team. I was in the local union here in Atlanta. Did it for about 2.5 years. A lot of heavy labor. When I went to, I've gone to film school for filmmaking, and obviously what they teach you in film school is not what you're going to be doing. I had to learn that the hard way. But in between the school and then the work with the union, I had been doing freelancing on film sets and such. So that's kind of how I got to that point.
And did you work on any notable productions? I mean, you live in Atlanta, so I mean, they shoot all the Avengers movies, Walking Dead, they shoot everything in Atlanta. Did you work on anything of note?
Yeah, Walking Dead, I did a couple seasons there. Yeah. Couple The Resident, it's a Showtime show. A couple smaller shows as well. Yeah.
So you're working on The Walking Dead in the electrical department. Now, there's people watching this who are going to be like, oh my God, that's my dream job. What was it about the realities of working in film that made you want to seek digital marketing or a similar online skill set?
The realities of working in film. Well, I mean, just being honest with you, when you're behind the camera and you're on the crew, especially in electric, there's two departments that are really labor intensive, which is electric, which is probably the most labor intensive. And then there's the grip department, handling a lot of the grip gear. And I was working with electric, 100-pound cables, wrangling them in the rain, in the snow, whatever the case may be. Great people, great guys, great people. But I didn't, I had it in my head. I wanted something, a little better for myself. I'm an intellectual for one, and I think I can use my mind for something better. So, I had always actually had an interest in, before, one of the things that caught my interest in digital marketing is I wanted some sense of freedom and something that I could use, that I could work and make a living off of, but it also granted me some freedom. So I had always had an interest in it, and I actually ended up learning a little bit about online stores and drop shipping and all these things, and I taught myself Facebook marketing, and that's kind of what led me on the path to where I am now.
Awesome. Yeah, the film it's like any other thing. I mean, some people just love it and live it and breathe it, and they want to be on those sets for 12, 14 hours a day. They like the sweat and the grind of it, and it feeds them, just like there are military people. There's people that like just, intense hardcore stuff. But people don't realize that. They think it's like all like fun and games, it's very difficult. And if you went to film school, you wanted to direct and write, didn't you? I mean, isn't that why everyone goes to film school?
That's right. I wanted to direct and write, but that's not what happened.
Yeah, guys, this is you went to the Savannah Institute. What was it?
Yeah, it was called the Savannah College of Art and Design.
Yeah, Savannah College of Art and Design. And it's, again, another one of these film schools. Guys, it's what I've been preaching for years because I went to NYU. Everybody goes to film school because they want to write and direct. I don't think anybody goes to film school to become a grip or an electric. By the way, those are great jobs. Those are great guys. Again, not disrespecting those skill sets at all. But again, those are labor intensive. These guys, you're in a union. These are not college educated guys. These are like blue collar guys, right? And so you're the one film school guy with this degree, and you studied like all this, crazy crap. And like, you probably had to do your bachelor's crap, right? Like you had to study like Shakespeare or astronomy or something. And your coworkers and your boss probably didn't even go to college, and they're making more money, and they're like, you're carrying cables, right?
Yeah. I learned pretty quickly that it wasn't even worth talking about my school background. Unless you were on like an independent set and you were like the head of a department, something, or that, on a creative team, then that would make sense to bring up your school background. But on a professional union set, no one cares.
Yeah, guys.
You know what I'm saying? No one, none of that, it doesn't matter, honestly.
Yeah. And I know we're going to come back to digital marketing in a second, but guys, I talk about the degree being irrelevant. I've been preaching this for, like 15 years now or something, because this was the same case back in the 90s when I went to film school in the 2000s. And, it's like, and what's hilarious is, even Robert Rodriguez is a great director. He made a whole like 10-minute film school. There was all this media being created about why film school is a waste of time and money. And at the same time, these film schools blew up. More and more people are going, more and more people are getting in debt. And it's just, it's hilarious. Like I had the same thing. Like I got jobs, you're working with these guys that just got on film sets. They're blue collar guys. You're the guy with the stupid degree and all this film knowledge. And you stand out too, if you're like that, if you're the intellectual guy who's with everyone else who's throwing wire and stuff. And the great thing about digital marketing and where you are now is that you could actually shoot a film now. Everything is lined up. You have a remote job. You're making good money. Everything has changed. You can get your hands on a camera for $100, which used to cost thousands of dollars. You got cast around you. You've got crew. You can shoot something now, which is awesome. So anyway, guys, I know we're talking about digital marketing, but it's cool to get into the background, because everyone who's in these videos has their own story. So let's just fast forward to when you actually found the course and how all that happened. So you were working on film sets when you found the course, and how did everything go after that?
Yeah. So I found the course some time ago, and I was, still pursuing my film, work. But it wasn't until later on, I believe last year, 2020, when the pandemic sort of hit, and then my industry kind of died. And then, I was thinking about other things that I could do. And I was, maybe this is a sign from God, or wherever the case may be, that I should just, here's an opportunity. Let's see how far I can take it. So, and honestly, the course that you sold to me is paid way more. I've gotten way more in return from it than I did even with the amount of money I spent at school and all these things. It just made sense. So, I had already liked marketing. The thinking involved that, in marketing, I developed a taste for it. So I just wanted to pursue it and see how far I could take it.
Cool. So you signed up in July of 2020, and I can tell you, by the way, I can tell you're an intellectual. I tell you're a thinker, man, because you're like your answers are coming out. You should write something. You're probably a writer too. But just the timeline for people. So you took the course in July of 2020, and then you were saying I think you had mentioned to me that you felt like you kind of overthought it, and you could have done things a little bit quicker.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, it actually really took me about 2.5 months to go through the course, doing all the exercises. I ended up getting internships right after that, because I kind of wanted a little more experience. So I ended up taking 2 internships, one in SEO, the other was they refer to themselves, it was a marketing agency. They refer to themselves as a full stack digital marketing agency. They didn't have a particular vertical. They took in whatever, and they were a startup. But I went through that whole process for about 5 to 6 months. I would say about 4.5 months to about 5 months, and I started applying to jobs. And I had to be convinced to do it. because I still had it in my head that I needed to learn more. But I didn't realize that, this is, you mentioned perfectionism equals poverty. But I could have gone in much faster, much sooner, had I known that, that was the best way to go. But in any case, it took me about 5.5 months. I got the job. After a month of just interviewing, I applied every day. It became a numbers game after a while. I was doing like 10 to 15 applications a day, copy and paste. And I had a strategy of, initially I would just apply and try to get interviews just to see what kind of questions they'd ask. And then I'd write them down. I'd use that knowledge in subsequent interviews, to improve my chances. And eventually I ended up, meeting my new employer. I initially applied for a paid search position. But since that I didn't go through, they liked me because of my knowledge, and they say, hey, bring this guy in for our programmatic department. And then that was it.
That's awesome, man. And you hit on a few points there. Yeah. So you sound like I tell my students, perfectionism equals poverty. You should start applying as soon as you get the experience. You don't know what these agencies are looking for. You don't understand how valuable these skills are or how desperate these companies are. But this happens with a lot of people. I can totally get it. You needed a few months experience, just kind of building your confidence and getting over that mental block, which a lot of people have, thinking you need more and more. I'm glad that you did start applying, and it only took you a month to get this job from the moment you started applying. I do in the course, provide sample questions and interview guidance. I don't know if you missed that, or, sometimes it is helpful, honestly, to get into the interviews and get that experience. I mean, I tell my students, just start interviewing. Even if you think you're bombing it, you got to just do it. 2, 3, by your third interview, you're so much better. And it sounds to me like by the time you found this position, which is only a month in, you were already confident enough where they believed in you and believed that you could contribute to their team.
Yes, sir. I think the active interviewing process, I was doing 2, sometimes 3 interviews a day, and it became a point where I was not, I wanted the job, but it was almost like I wasn't too hurt if I didn't get it, because I just knew what they were looking for in order to get an interview. So I knew I was going to get in front of people, again. So I wasn't too worried about it. Yeah, it was kind of an endurance thing. I would just say, let me just get through the next couple of weeks. Let me do as much as I can.
But you have to understand that is a very short timeline. You talk about endurance. I'm like, no, that's a month. That's not a year. I've known people like myself, who have a degree and no skills, and they go a year, but a month, and you're getting interviews right away, it sounds like.
Yeah, it took really after my first application, I got interviews. I was utilizing a lot of stuff you incorporated for the resumes. I would utilize a lot of that stuff, and then I would mix in some of the stuff I got from the agency and stuff. And that sort of standed out. And I was able to get interviews because of that. I think that really helped me out a lot. And I was all over the place, man. I was LinkedIn, Indeed, everything I could find, yeah.
And what you did, and this is the thing, guys, I never know exactly. I mean, you're going to get results if you follow the instructions. The more closer you follow the instruction, the better results you'll get. And, I tell my students, don't copy. You mentioned copy and paste. And I say, don't do that, because if you customize the resume, that's general good advice for everyone. Customize the resume to the job posting, you have a better chance. But even though you copy and pasting, you still got interviews. But the thing is, it's like you said, it's a number. It's like if you throw out 20 uncustomized resumes, there is a chance you will hear back from 2 or 3 places. But if you customize, you will hear back from, the chance of hearing back are higher. Whatever you did, you got the job. And, just again, the process of interviewing, I think what you mentioned was essential. I was going to jump in there is that is the right mindset to have. Anyone watching, whether you take my course or not, when you interview, you should have that attitude. I'm learning, I'm getting to know somebody. I'm not going to be upset if I don't get the job. That is the best energy you can bring into anything. You should bring that into any interaction, a date. If you are so attached to getting this job, you're going to come off so needy. You're going to come off. So I've interviewed people like that. And it's like, it gets in the way of me. I just want to understand who you are and what you bring to the table. But if your need for the job gets in the way, you can't see that. So if you're being, not like relaxed, like you're smoking a joint, but like, you're just like, you just understand there's thousands of jobs. That's really what I think, that attitude, you just conveyed that in what you said, which is, that's cool. I could do 3 interviews a day for a month. I'm still going to do more interviews. That's the abundance of jobs in this field. And that's what you guys should be bringing to your interview. I think you should bring that to any interview in any field, honestly, because then you're just a more compelling candidate, because you're not, you're projecting more confidence. So that's awesome, man. So I'm curious now, you've got this great job. You've been trained in this new skill set. You're making good money. You have the flexibility. Like, what's your life like now? Are you just doing digital marketing? Are you doing any film stuff? And, how do you like this kind of a career versus the film career?
Well, I mean, comparing the two, it's like night and day. The film stuff, it was kind of seasonal, within the summer, between the spring and the summer, you were working, but in the fall and in the winter, nothing happened. So you were kind of, you kind of were pinching pennies for a while, until the next gig comes up. It was okay, but again, the stress you'd have in your body, like I still have pains that I had from work that from the film work that may not go away. You know what I mean? But the work in digital marketing from my computer desk, where I can control everything, I'm pretty relaxed. I manage my own time. I get the time to write. Right now, I can go and film something if I want. I still got buddies that film. It's a lot more free. My department and what I do, it kind of goes, the first half of the month is kind of busy, but then the last 2 weeks of the month is a little slower, which allows me to do a lot of other stuff that I want to do in my own time. So I mean, it's great. It's life-changing. I wish I would have learned about this sooner. Like, well, what's the point of going to college,
Yeah, that's a good question. That is a good question. I had the same question. And nowadays it's even more of a good question. But that's really awesome, man. I'm really happy you have that flexibility. You enjoy the work. You're not, messing up your body. You have the time. A lot of people ask me about this too. It's perfect. You said this. I've been getting a lot of messages from artists, actors, film people, musicians who are looking for actually, it's funny. One of the actresses on my movie just emailed me. I shot a feature in 2017, and it was really talented actress in LA. She asked me because she was looking for the same type of situation. She wants to act. But I mean, if you're just acting or just filmmaking, you're right. You're in the grind. Or if you're an actor, you're trying to you're waiting tables when you're not working. I was like, dude, digital marketing is a much better career to have. Even if you work full time, you have that flexibility for the most part. So I'm really happy. And now I think it's good for you, because you should be pursuing, on my other life, I did film coaching and a filmmaking blog. And it's like, dude, just write and direct, man. Don't try to work your way up. That's what I teach, by the way, guys. I'm going to go back into film, but it's similar to college. These institutions are set up so stupidly. So like, you go to film school because you want to write and direct. And then they're like, you got to go to school, get your foot in the door, work your way up. I was like, dude, there's no climbing the ladder. You work in the electrical department for 30 years. You're never going to direct. They never say, hey, that guy's really good at laying, cable or hanging lights. let's let him direct a movie. That's not how it works. They're different skills. So I was in the same situation. I was a PA. I'm like, getting coffee. Like, wow, that guy gets some great coffee. Wow, the way he picks up stuff from Starbucks. Let's give him a directing job. They're not related. And when you guys bring it back to everybody, it's like when you're in school, it's the same thing. It's like, hey, this guy knows really a lot about the mitochondria of the cell. Let's give him a CO position. It's like nothing you're learning is related. And the adults who put this together are idiots. And a lot of these film schools, unfortunately, they're making a lot of money, just like the colleges. They're making a lot of money off of misleading people. So, okay, that was my little mini rant. Sorry, guys.
Hi, man. I feel we have a spiritual awareness of the situation. I totally understand it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just happy, dude. You're like, a great example for people of like what's possible. And again, you're just beginning your career. You could be freelancing. You could be doing all sorts of stuff in the next couple of years. So I'm interested to see where you go with your career and, what you do creatively as well. Because the work-life balance is so huge, especially these days. So thanks, man. Thanks for sharing your story with us. Is there anything you want to say to me or anyone watching the video before we finish up?
Man, I'm glad I stumbled upon your face and your content and the things that you had to offer. Honestly, that was the key. For me, like this sort of sets the foundation for the things that I want to do in the future. I mean, writing, whatever the case may be, I can do it now. And for any artsy kind of folks out there, not only do you get the freedom and the less stress and the time to do the other things that you want, but the added skill set of being able to market your own content. It's a great thing to have in general. Just to, no matter what happens, this kind of skill set will lead you into things that you'll need in life anyway. So I'm glad I took part in it. I'm glad it paid off. I'll tell anyone to go the digital marketing route if they want they want freedom. So
awesome, man. Well said. And I mentioned that to people too. It's true. If you're an artist, like, you have to market.
Yeah.
Whether you write songs, you paint paintings, you're an actor, you're a filmmaker, everything's marketing. So eventually I had someone write to me and they said, well, I really just want to work on pursuing my art. So that's great, man. I mean, I encourage that, but you got to pay the bills, and you're going to come right back to either me or someone similar to learn these skills. Pretty much whatever you do, you write a book, you got to market it, anything creative. Unless you want to be an accountant, in which case, you should become an accountant, and that's a great skill set. But, any of these artistic things, that's a really good point of view. Cool, man. Well, thanks for sharing your story. It's a unique and really cool message, and a good story and a good example. Great chatting with you, and we'll keep in touch and we'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you.